So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be continuing with the series of going through some big mark questions taken from some higher GCSE Maths past papers. Now as always there'll be a copy of the questions for you to have an attempt at before watching through this video, so you can see how much you know and how much what your attempt would be without going through the answers. And I'll also include the mark scheme in the link below for you to check to see if your method differs from the one I go through in the video, to see if it's still valid to get you the marks. Now, as you can see in the topic breakdown of the 5 questions we're about to go through, that unlike some of the other big mark questions that we've looked at in this series, that there really isn't much variety in the topics of each of these questions. So each question is exclusive to one topic. So question 1, it's very common for composite functions and equations to be merged into one topic, and you can see there that it's a big 6 mark question. Volumes and pyramids is usually and commonly linked with Pythagoras and trig. Circle theorems is a standalone topic. Compound interest, again, another standalone topic that's worth a lot of marks. And graph functions and rate of change usually come hand in hand. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 says for all values of x, f of x equals x squared plus 1 and g of x equals x minus 5. And the question is asking us to show that fg of x equals x squared minus 10x plus 26. Now if you've not had an opportunity to print off the question sheet, then all you need to do is just simply pause the video and have a go at these questions, then unpause to watch through the answers. So looking at this particular question with composite functions, what you're wanting to do is substitute whatever's in the bracket into the function that it's related to. Now when you've got a composite function where you've got multiple letters, rather than substituting x, what you're going to do is you're going to substitute x for the previous function. So here I've got g of x, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute wherever I see an x in f of x, I'm going to swap it with the function g of x, which I'm just going to put that in brackets. So here what I'm doing is wherever I see an x in f of x, I'm going to swap it with x minus 5. So if I just put brackets around that x, which is a bit thick, so let me get rid of that, and hopefully have a thinner pen. And there we go. So where I can see an x, I'm going to swap it with this. So fg of x is going to be, so instead of writing x squared, I'm going to write x minus 5 squared, and then it's plus 1. So all I've done is just swap the x with x minus 5. From here I'm then going to expand the bracket, so that becomes x squared minus 10x plus 25 plus 1. And then simplifying that, that gives me x squared minus 10x plus 26, which is what they wanted me to show. Then for question B, it says show that fg of x equals gf of x. So for this one, this side has already been done because that's part A. And so what I then need to do is, if I go back to my function, is now wherever I see an x in g of x, I'm then going to swap it with this whole function. So gf of x is going to be, so rather than writing x, I'm going to write x squared plus 1. So that's going to be x squared plus 1. And then I've got a minus 5. So simplifying all of that gives me x squared take away 4. So then all I then need to do is make this equal to this. So then what I've got is I've got x squared minus 10x plus 26 equals x squared take away 4. Now as you can see, both sides have got an x squared, so I can cancel or take away x squared from both sides. So here I've then got, and then take the 26 over to the side by taking away 26. So minus 10x equals minus 30, and that leaves me with an answer of x equals 3. Moving on to question 2, it says the volume of a pyramid equals 1/3 times the area of the base times the perpendicular height. And it says VABCD is a rectangular base pyramid with a volume of 336. It says x is the centre of the horizontal base directly below V, and the question is asking us to work out the angle of between VB and the base. So the angle they're wanting me to work with is this. Now in order for me to work out the size of that angle, I need to work out what 2 of the sides are. Now the more logical sides are going to be Vx and xb. So if I can work out x and y, I can then use trigonometry to work out what this angle here is going to be. Now I'll tell you what we'll do is we will call the angle that we're looking for as little x, because obviously we're using x, and let's call this side A and let's call this side B. Now here what we need to do is use Pythagoras to actually work out what d to b is going to be. Now d to b, just write a d a little bit better. Now you could go in the opposite direction, you could work out a to c. So AC equals db, but db squared equals, and it's going to be, if that's going to be 8, so it's going to be 8 squared plus 14 squared. So working that out, it's going to be 64 plus 196, and if I add those numbers up, I get 260. So db squared equals 260, so therefore db equals the square root of 260, which as a third is 4 times 65, so that's going to be 2 root 65, and then therefore, and it's going to be xb is going to be 2 over 65 root 65 divided by 2, because it's half the distance. So all of this here is 2 root 65. So then half of that is simply going to be root 65. So from this, what I've then worked out is that this distance here, let me just get rid of all these coloured lines, so now you don't have the opportunity to do so. So this line here is going to be root 65. Now the next thing for me then to do is to work out what A is. Now for this I need to use the volume. So for this, what we've got now, the volume using this formula, so V equals a third times the area of the base multiplied by the height. So substituting numbers in, V equals 336. The area of the base is going to be 14 times 8, and that's going to be multiplied by the height, and we need to divide that by 3. So from this, what we can then do is take the 3 over to the other side. So I end up with 1008, and that's going to equal 14 times 8, which is 112. And then we've got h. So then here, 1008 divided by 112 equals h. So h equals 9. So I can label that as 9. So then from there, what I can then do is use trigonometry. So if I draw that triangle out again, and it's a right angle triangle, so it's going to be using SOHCAHTOA. So this is 9, that's root 65, and this is the angle that I want. So I'm going to have to use tan. So tan x equals 9 over root 65, and that's from the opposite over the adjacent. So inverse tan of 9 over root 65 equals x. And so therefore x equals 48.1 degree, and that's to 1 decimal place. And that question's worth 6 marks, so hence the amount of working out that we needed. Now looking at question 3, and see if I can just try and get that all on screen. It says that A, B, C, D are points on a circle with centre O. It says AC is the diameter of the circle, AT is a tangent to the circle. And the question is asking me to work out the size of angle X and angle Y. So first things first, now typically they've not asked us for full working out or to explain any of the answers, so I'm going to assume that we can do this on the diagram, but we'll try and explain it as we go along. Now as you can see, what we've got is we've been told that AC is the diameter, and so therefore when you've got a triangle inside a semicircle where the hypotenuse of the triangle is the diameter, then the opposite angle is going to be 90 degrees. Now from that, what I can then do is, now before I've worked that out, I can work out what this angle here is, and that's going to be 180 minus 72, which is 108, and that's because angles on a straight line add up to 180. Then from there, what I can then do is I can then work out what this angle here is, because it is an arrowhead. Now hopefully you can spot the arrowhead, so if I just highlight it in blue, like so. Now the property of an arrowhead is that this angle at the centre is twice the size the angle at the circumference. So to work out this blue angle, that's going to be 108 divided by 2, which is 54 degrees. Now if this angle here is 54, I can then work out what this little angle here is going to be, because all of that is 90, and that's going to be 36. And then from this I can then work out what this angle here is going to be. Now how do I work out what that angle there is? Well, it's going to be a bow. Now the reason why you can see it's a bow is if I draw that out in yellow, you can see I've got a bow there, and what that basically means is that this angle here is going to be the same as this angle here, so that's going to be 30 degrees. Now from this I can then work out what x is going to be. So x is going to be 180 degrees because it's a triangle. Take away 30, take away 90, and so x equals, and it's going to give me an answer of 60 degrees. Then from this, what I can then do is I can then work out what some of these angles are going to be. So from this, what I can then do is if I notice that, let's just get rid of some of these highlighting. Let's get rid of those colours like so. And we get rid of that. We know that this angle here is 108. Now, as you can see, we've got another triangle that I can see, which is this green triangle that we've got. Now this angle here is 30, this angle here is 54, so to work out this angle here, that's going to be 180 minus 30 minus 54. So that's going to be 180 minus 84, which gives me an answer of 96 degrees. Now I can then work out what this angle here is going to be, because it's an opposite angle, so that's also going to be 96 degrees. I can then work out what this angle here is going to be, because again I've got another triangle, so let me just highlight that triangle now. So there's another triangle. So working out this angle here, that's going to be 180 minus 30 minus 96, so it's going to be 180 minus 126, and that's going to give me an answer of 54 degrees. And again, I could have worked that out because that's also two ends of the bow, and so I could have got that angle there. Now the next thing to note in terms of other circle theorems is that a tangent meets the radius at 90 degrees. So this angle here is going to be 90. So here what we've got is that y plus 54 equals 90. So y equals 36 degrees. And there I've got the value of x and the value of y. Now you might have found a quicker way of doing it or an alternative way, but as long as you show enough sufficient working out on the diagram to get those values, you should get your 4 marks. Moving on to question 4, it says that on the 1st of January 2012, Beth invested some money in a bank account. The account pays 2.5 compound interest per year. On the 1st of January 2013, Beth withdrew £1,000 from the account, and on the 1st of January 2014, she had £17,466 in her account. Work out how much money Beth had originally invested in the account. So what we need to do here is work backwards from compound interest. Now let's have a look at a certain situation. So let's imagine that we're starting off with the original amount, so that's going to be x. Now if we multiply that by, and we're looking at an increase of 2.5%, so that's going to be multiplying by 1.025, and that's to the power of 1, and that gives me the answer of how much she has at the end of 2013. Now at the end of 2013, what she then does is she withdraws £1,000, and she then has another amount, which is C. Now from that, in 2014, she then accumulates another 2.5%, and she then ends up with 17,466. So what we then need to do is simply just work backwards. So here C is going to equal 17466 divided by 1.025, and so therefore C equals, and it's going to give me an answer of 17040. So that's what C is. So I can replace that like so. Then with that, I missed out a 0 there. So then to work out B, all I then need to do, that's going to be C plus 1000. So that's going to be 18040, and that's what B equals. And then from that, I can then work out what X is. So here X equals, and it's going to be 18040 divided by 1.025. And so X is going to equal £17,600, and there is my final answer. Then moving on to our last question. So here it says the height h meters of a particle at time t seconds is given by the function of h equals 0 between the values of 0 and 2, and h equals 14 take away t multiplied by t minus 2 for the values of t between and including 2 and 10. Now the question is asking us to draw a graph to show the height of the particle in the first 10 seconds. So if I just zoom out, so we've got it all on the graph. Now what we need to do here is look at the t values going across, which is along the x-axis, and we follow whatever h is. So looking at this, this value of h when t is 0 is this. This is the function that I use. So it's going to be 0. Then when t is 1, again it falls into this category here. So again it's going to be 0. And at 2 it's going to be 0. Now for all the other values, I need to use this function to work out what t is going to be. So if I just create a table, so t, and I write down all the numbers from 2 to 10. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now to work out what h is, it says h equals 14 take away t, t minus 2. And what I'll then do is then work out the values of h. So then substituting the t value into this function, I end up with 14 take away 2, which is 12, multiplied by 2 take away 2, which is 0, which leaves me with 0. For the next one, 14 take away 3 is 11, multiplied by 3 take away 2, which is 1. So that's 11 times 1, which is 11. Then for the next one, it's going to be 10 times 2, which is 20. Then it's going to be 9 times 3, which is 27. Then 8 times 4, which is 32. 7 times 5, which is 35. 6 times 6, which is 36. Then 5 times 7, which is 35. And then finally 4 times 8, which is 32. So what I then need to do is now plot these t values. I don't know why I've just crossed them out. It's not my intention. So what we need to do is now plot these t values against these h values. So what that then looks like is at 2 it's 0. At 3 it's at 11, which is there. At 4 it's at 20. Nice easy plot. 5 it's at 27. At 6 it's at 32. At 7 it's at 35. At 8 it's at 36. And at 9 it's at 35. And at 10 it's at 32. So then all I need to do is then join these points up as accurately as I can. Now I can pretty much guarantee that on the computer it's not going to be as accurate, but I tell you what, I will take that and then we join those points up, and there is my completed function graph. Now for question B, it says by joining the points on the graph from t equals 3 to t equals 7 with a straight line, work out the average rate of change of the height between 3 and 4 seconds. So what I need to do is, with a ruler, I join where 3 is, then where 7 is, which is there. Let me just do that in a different colour so we can actually see it. Let's do it in blue, and let me just match that up. So I need to work out the gradient of that blue line, and again, this is where working on a computer is incredibly frustrating when you're doing maths. And there we go. So the next thing for me then to do is to work out the gradient of this line. So if I choose a different colour, and then as accurately as I can, what I then want to do is count the squares using the scale that's being used. So here, one little box represents 1, and one little box going across represents 0.2. So looking at this, what we end up with is the difference of 14, and going across, that's going to be 4. So it's going to be 14 divided by 4, which is 7 over 2, which is 3.5, and the units are given, and there we go.